You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done.
Oh, sorry. Are we starting? Hi, I'm Rona Lewis. Welcome to Biz-Souls.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler. We get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
I was looking up information because today we have, I think, a really good topic to talk about. I read about this in Fast Company, and I called Jeffrey and I'm like, we have to do a thing on this because I have met more than my share of bad bosses who think they're doing a great job. Holy crap. I mean, I worked for bosses who thought they were good. And yeah, did you ever come across people who thought they were great bosses? And
it happens all the time where people think you're doing a good job.
And, they don't realize that they are leading from a place of fear and being afraid that people will find out that they have no idea what they're doing.
Right. Well, I'm just amazed on the other end why they don't get fired. So why do bad bosses why do they not know?
That's a great question.
Because, that's them not knowing.
Well,
they can be in denial, but why does everybody else seem to ignore it?
I don't know. I'm looking at this article and it doesn't talk about that.
No, this is a different article I picked up and it's
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's a parallel.
Okay. This is, and it's hard for them to see. They have a cognitive bias as to what their abilities are. And I talk about this in my women's leadership class, whereas women tend to have imposter syndrome where they know more than they think they know. Men have the Dunning-Kruger effect where they think they know more than they actually do.
Right.
And it's really hard for them to see themselves for what they are.
Yes, and by the same token,
Yeah.
The companies themselves are clueless. They don't have clear accountability systems. They find it difficult to replace people because they're worried about the cost, and then they don't have a system for getting somebody new or replacing them. So then it becomes a disruption, and it's like one dysfunction layering on top of another dysfunction.
Yeah.
This is how it goes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the powers that be have a distorted view of themselves, which distorts the view of other people. And I want to read this real quick. We actually talk about Ed Catmull all the time. And he was the co-founder and former president of Pixar. And he said, the higher up you go, the more distorted the truth. And there's this woman, Megan Reitz, her research on speaking truth to power backs this up with something called advantage blindness, a phenomenon where people in power become oblivious to how their status intimidates others. So you stop noticing how people treat you differently, how your words affect people differently, and how people are hesitant to push back. Really? You have no idea how to turn your phone off.
Okay, pause.
And to be fair, people don't always realize the effect they have on other people. I think that's maybe a bit of a lack of emotional intelligence. And the higher up, there's also kind of like unchecked power, which allows people to assume what they do is just fine. And I think that's a really hard thing to overcome when you're a middle manager or just an employee, Any other comments on that?
No, it makes perfect sense.
So what do you think we can do to work with bad bosses?
So here's the thing. How are we defining what's a bad boss?
I think someone who has
results.
Hero leadership, someone who shuts people up if they have other ideas.
But what if that works?
I don't think it does. I mean, if it worked, then they wouldn't be a bad boss.
Maybe just people complain about Elon Musk, right? They think a lot of people complain about
Yeah,
him.
and that's why a lot of his stuff is losing money and people are jumping ship, and he's got a bad reputation.
And yet his stock prices keep going up.
Have they?
Yeah. But other than that,
sure?
don't worry about it.
So they make, you have to check, there's a check your assumptions quiz in this Fast Company article. And if you're a leader, you can ask yourself, do you know what your direct reports are struggling with? What lights a fire under your team? What are they passionate about? When was the last time somebody went toe-to-toe with you and disagreed and you allowed them to have your opinion? When did you have a good conversation with someone who did not agree with you? These are the kind of things that good bosses allow to happen.
Well, here are different types of bad bosses.
Okay.
Here's the bully. So the bully thrive on intimidation and fear. Mm-hmm. So how does that work with your suggestion you just gave? Your suggestion
I don't think that would work because the bully doesn't want to hear it.
Bully doesn't want to hear.
Yeah, usually the bully is a coward, where if he strikes first and says mean things that have nothing to do with what the issues are, that it just shuts people up.
Well, here's how would that affect the insecure boss. An insecure manager can be detrimental to the team health because their actions stem from deep-seated fear of being outshone by their team members. They micromanage, withhold critical information, rarely, if ever, credit others for their contributions.
Could you speak a little softer because we can almost hear you?
Was that really quiet? I'm
it
so
was really
sorry.
Quiet.
It was just where I was on this. So the insecure boss, somebody who doesn't want to be outshone by his
I think that can go back to the bully, where he or she, we don't want to be biased on that, although mostly. Anyway, I think it can be related to the bully who doesn't want to hear anybody else, because that would mean they would feel like they didn't know what they were doing.
Okay. Here's the hider. The hider is a manager who shies away from responsibility, often avoiding tough decisions or any scenario where they could be held accountable. Could they follow?
I wonder where I've heard people like that.
Who?
Oh, we won't talk about it now. It's too controversial. Not you. Someone who's in the news a lot. Anyway.
Okay. Well, very good.
What was that? Totally. Oh, yeah. Someone who doesn't want to take responsibility. Yeah. And I think that goes along with narcissism too.
Okay.
They don't want to take responsibility for anything, because if they're wrong, they can't be wrong.
Okay.
That's what I think. What do you think?
I don't know. I again, a bad boss, somebody, they may not like him. What if he's getting results or she's getting results? And you think maybe they can't get results.
Well, I think you have to look at the bigger picture. Are the employees happy? Are they being productive? Are they jumping ship? What's the turnover like? That sort of thing. So,
right.
Excuse me. It's not just the boss. It's everything around the boss that will do
you have cheese during lunch or something?
Yes, more of we had fondue for lunch, and it was very cheesy.
Anyway, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, it's just I've had bad bosses before, and they're horrible. And I've worked as a consultant. I've worked with bad bosses. So have you. Yeah. I mean, you've told me stories where you give them great ideas, and they don't want to do any of it because they feel like it would make them look bad.
Right.
And that's what I've given people tons of tools. You can do,
but
it
they're never easy, those decisions, when we're asking them to do something like that. It's a big change.
Well, fear is yes,
it's a huge motivator.
Change and fear go together, and it's those people who are afraid of doing different things, because if it fails, then they get blamed.
Well, just think of it though. If they don't take advice, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make him a bad boss? So you said they didn't take my advice. That made him a bad boss.
Yes, because you were called in to help.
Well, yeah,
with the organizational development.
But they've got to hear. They hear everybody's idea on it. They hear maybe 800 ideas or something, and then out of that they choose one, And at that one, that means 799 of them are upset because they weren't listened to.
So are you saying that they hired, just keep it over there. They hired 799 more consultants.
No, that consultant was somebody for another opinion, but he may not have liked anything that anybody said and would have had to go with his own decision.
So basically, you're useless.
Basically, yeah.
That's what you're saying. You're useless.
No. I'm just saying from the perspective of the boss, he's not a bad boss because he doesn't take advice.
Then why is he a bad boss?
Well, that's the thing you have to define. So are we defining a bad boss? Just because people don't like the decisions doesn't mean,
That's a different story. It's, they may not like the decision. Sometimes I think that's okay. Usually the boss knows more about what's going on behind the scenes and they may not be totally transparent. A bad boss to me is one who does not treat the employees well, stops productivity, doesn't want to hear anyone else's ideas, has a closed mindset. And is my way or the highway, leadership, Dunning-Kruger effect, that whole thing where they are scared of being found out, whatever their reason, they're just not open to learning. Good bosses, I think good bosses have smarter people around them because that makes them look smarter.
Okay. Possibility. I don't know.
Okay. That's been my experience as a boss. I hired super smart people, better salespeople than I was. And I looked great because we kept making our numbers and things like that. And I was a great manager.
Right.
I may not have been, I was a decent salesperson. I wasn't the world's best. I mean, I did a lot on my personality. People wanted to work with me because of me. I'll take that all day long.
Right.
And because I was able to keep the teamwork going and work in the positive psychology and all that kind of stuff, that's what helped. I don't think bosses who berate and put people down and challenge them and not in a good way are such great bosses.
Right.
And there we go. Anything on that? Anything else on that?
No, I thought that was great. It was really descriptive and I thought it was very valuable.
Okay.
I've got nothing but compliments on that one.
Well, that's it. That's all we got. This one was short and sweet.
How would somebody become what if they were that awful? How would they become better?
Well, they would probably be fired if they got enough complaints on it.
Let's say they didn't. Let's say they have a second chance.
I think they would really need to take a class in emotional intelligence and
So you think
active listening skills and all that.
What would they look for? How do you get past that, though? How do you get past that illusion? If you've been believing yourself one way, to face that, face the fact that
I think it takes a lot of courage to sit with the people you've been working with who are not happy with you and say, okay, what have you seen? What am I not seeing? What can I do better? Tell me what I've been doing that is making you feel this way, and really listen to the answer and don't get defensive. Once people, and that's, you have to learn how to communicate well as well.
Isn't the boss to get a result?
Is it? What happened to employee experience and customer experience? It's not always about the boss.
Yeah.
It's the whole workings of an organization. If the boss is an owner, they're going to want their people to work well. And, not every boss is meant to be a manager. Right. Not every owner. Let me change that. Not every owner is meant to be a boss.
So while you're saying that the function that a position serves in a company, it's being filled by a whole different group of people, and they have different expectations. Possibly. And they needed, so even though the boss knows how to make it work in the end, the approach has to change based on the needs of the new people coming in.
I don't know. I lost you. So are you saying that the boss isn't seeing the new way of doing things?
Right. So he knows what he needs out of that position. It's like a machine. Like, I know I need 2,000 pounds of torque from that machine. If
okay.
I can't, so I need to get 2,000 pounds of torque.
Yeah.
Now,
there's an important
20 years ago, there was a person that could give me that.
Yeah.
That person doesn't fit anymore. I need a new person. But the new person community has different expectations. Completely different expectations.
Of how they do the job?
Of how I communicate to him as a boss. You said it's
Well,
more about the result.
And so, but that's where the communication comes in. You know, can we do it this way? He has to be open. He or she has to be open to, or they, a new way of communicating, and still keep that active listening. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Excuse me. I almost sneezed my nose off. So it's all about staying flexible, going with the flow, and realizing that the younger generation is going to have expectations. Business is not the same as it was years ago. You have to be flexible. You have to be open. You have to see maybe they have better ideas.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Different ideas, different ways of talking about things. It's a different approach to get the same work done, but it's not really the same work, is it? Because it has more components.
Basically, but we digress. Basically, a good boss is one who is open to conversation, to listening to people who have, ideas that may change a lot and may eventually make things better and easier and more innovative, et cetera, et cetera. So bad bosses just don't. They work from a place of fear.
Okay.
And there you go. I think we have beat this horse to death, unfortunately, and I love horses. All right, that's it for us. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.